Commander Krellvox had been monitoring deep space communications for over 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The massive holographic display in front of him showed a pulsing red in the most dangerous region of the galaxy. Every few seconds, the dot would flash brighter, sending out a signal that made no sense. "Sir, that signal is coming from Forbidden Sector," said his young assistant, nervously adjusting the controls. "According to our maps, nothing should be alive out there." Krellvox's blue tentacles twitched with worry. The Forbidden Sector was a place where ships went to die. 3,000 years ago, the Galactic Confederation had sent their best exploration teams to survey that region. Most never came back. The few that did return brought back horror stories of worlds where the very air could kill you, where gravity was so strong it would crush your bones, and where storms could tear apart entire cities. The worst of these death worlds was a small blue planet orbiting a violent yellow star. The survey team had labeled it Sol 3 and marked it as completely uninhabitable. The temperature swings were extreme, going from freezing cold to burning hot. Massive storms regularly swept across its surface. The gravity was 3 times stronger than what most civilized species could handle. Worst of all, the planet was covered in a poisonous gas called oxygen that would literally burn through your lungs. But now, that same death world was sending out a distress signal. Not just any signal either. This was sophisticated technology, the kind that took centuries to develop. "Run a full-spectrum analysis," Krellvox ordered, his voice tight with confusion. "I want to know everything about that signal." The analysis took 3 hours. When the results came back, Krellvox felt his blood run cold. The signal wasn't just random noise or some ancient automated system. It was complex, organized, and most terrifying of all, it was recent. Someone was alive down there, and they were trying to communicate. "This doesn't make sense," whispered the science officer, a tall creature with crystal-like skin. "Our atmospheric readings show that planet is still a toxic wasteland. The radiation levels alone should kill any known life form within minutes." Krellvox stared at the data, his mind racing. Either their instruments were wrong, which seemed impossible, or something was living on that death world that shouldn't exist. Both possibilities scared him. "Sir," called out another officer from across the command center. "We're picking up more signals now. Lots of them." The main display suddenly filled with dozens of new contacts. Energy signatures were appearing all over the Sol 3 system, not just on the planet's surface, but in orbit around it. Massive structures that looked like space stations were somehow functioning in an environment that should have destroyed them instantly. "How many life signs are we detecting?" Krellvox asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. "Over 7 billion, sir." The commander's legs nearly gave out. 7 billion creatures living on a world that every expert in the galaxy had declared impossible to inhabit. It was like discovering that someone had built a thriving city inside an active volcano. "Prepare the investigation fleet," he ordered, trying to keep his voice steady. "Full diplomatic protocols. If there really is an intelligent species down there, we need to make contact carefully." His assistant looked up nervously. "Sir, what if they're hostile? Any species that could survive on that world would have to be incredibly dangerous." Krellvox had been thinking the same thing. What kind of creatures could evolve on a planet where everything was trying to kill them? They would have to be tough beyond imagination, possibly violent, definitely unpredictable. The very fact that they had survived suggested they were natural-born fighters. As the fleet prepared to depart, Krellvox couldn't shake a growing sense of dread. For 3,000 years, the galaxy had been peaceful partly because the most dangerous regions of space were empty. If something had been quietly growing stronger in those forbidden zones, developing technology, while living in conditions that would kill anyone else, what did that mean for the rest of civilization? The investigation fleet consisted of 12 of the Confederation's most advanced ships, each equipped with the latest defensive systems. As they approached the edge of the Forbidden Sector, long-range sensors began picking up even more impossible readings. The death world wasn't just inhabited. It was thriving. Cities covered entire continents. Orbital platforms surrounded the planet like a protective shell. Most shocking of all, there were signs of space travel. Whatever lived on Sol, Three had somehow developed the technology to leave their toxic homeworld and explore the stars. Krellvox realized with growing horror that the galaxy might be about to meet its most dangerous neighbors, creatures who had spent thousands of years learning to survive in hell itself. Captain James Mitchell stood on the bridge of his ship, the Endeavor, watching the alien fleet through the main viewport. After 50 years of secretly listening to their communications, humanity finally knew enough about the Galactic Confederation to make contact. The question was whether these aliens were ready to meet them. "Captain, we're receiving multiple hails from the alien fleet," reported Lieutenant Rebecca Walsh from her communication station. "They sound pretty nervous." Mitchell smiled. He could understand why. From the aliens' perspective, a ship had just appeared from what they considered the most dangerous region in the galaxy, a place where nothing should be able to survive, let alone build spacecraft. "Open a channel, Rebecca. Let's introduce ourselves properly." The main screen flickered to life, showing a blue-skinned creature with tentacles where a human might have hair. The alien's large black eyes were wide with what looked like fear and confusion. "Unknown vessel." The alien commander spoke through their universal translator. "You are approaching from a quarantine zone. That sector has been marked as uninhabitable for over 3,000 years. Please identify yourself immediately." "This is Captain James Mitchell of the Earthship Endeavor," Mitchell replied calmly. "We're representatives of humanity, and we'd like to request permission to come aboard for a peaceful meeting." The alien commander's tentacles writhed frantically. "Impossible. Nothing can live in that region of space. The radiation levels alone would kill any known species within hours. Your homeworld shows atmospheric conditions that would dissolve most life forms." Mitchell chuckled softly. "Well, we seem to be doing just fine, Commander. We've actually been monitoring your communications for decades, learning your languages and customs. We've been waiting for the right time to make contact." The revelation that they had been unknowingly watched sent visible shock waves through the alien bridge crew. Mitchell could see several officers frantically checking their instruments and whispering to each other in panic. "You've been watching us?" the commander asked weakly. "Of course," Mitchell replied. "Good neighbors keep an eye on each other. We wanted to understand your people before we introduce ourselves. From what we've learned, you seem like decent folks who value peace and cooperation." The alien commander seemed to struggle with this information. "But the conditions on your world. Our surveys show surface temperatures that swing from -40 to +60 degrees. Atmospheric pressure that would crush most species. Gravity levels 3 times what we consider safe. How is any of this possible?" "Sounds like a nice spring day back home," Mitchell said with a grin. "Look, I know this is a lot to process, but we're not here to cause trouble. We'd just like to establish formal diplomatic relations." After several minutes of frantic discussion among the alien crew, the commander finally agreed to allow a small human delegation aboard their flagship. The aliens clearly expected to witness the deaths of whatever primitive creatures had somehow managed to build a spaceship. When the airlock opened on the Confederation vessel, the alien crew watched in amazement as Captain Mitchell stepped through wearing nothing more than a standard pressure suit. No heavy environmental armor, no life support systems. Just basic protection against the vacuum of space. What happened next left the aliens speechless. Mitchell walked casually through sections of their ship where the artificial gravity exceeded what most species could handle. He showed no signs of strain or discomfort as he moved through areas that would normally require special equipment for alien visitors. "Your ship has excellent artificial gravity," Mitchell commented as they walked down a corridor where the gravitational force was nearly twice Earth normal. "Very stable. Our engineers would be impressed." The alien escort officer, a tall crystalline being, stared at Mitchell in disbelief. "Sir, you do realize the gravity in this section is set to emergency levels? Most of our own crew require assistance to move through here." "Really?" Mitchell looked genuinely surprised. "It feels pretty comfortable to me. Maybe a bit light, actually." When they reached the main conference room, the alien commander was waiting with his senior staff. All of them watched nervously as Mitchell sat down in a chair that had been reinforced to handle the ship's heavy gravity settings. "Now then," Mitchell began, completely at ease despite being surrounded by alien technology and atmospheric conditions that should have been slowly killing him. Let's talk about how our peoples can work together. The alien commander leaned forward, his tentacles still twitching with anxiety. Before we discuss anything else, I must ask, what exactly are you? How is it possible that you survived on that death world long enough to develop space travel? Mitchell's expression grew more serious. Commander, what you call a death world, we call home. Earth made us strong, because it had to. Every day was a challenge. Every season brought new dangers. We didn't just survive those conditions. We learned to thrive in them. The aliens exchanged worried glances, beginning to understand that they weren't just meeting new neighbors. They were encountering something unprecedented in galactic history, a species that had been forged by the very forces that would destroy everyone else. Dr. Amanda Clark stepped into the testing chamber, while a dozen of the Confederation's top scientists watched from behind protective glass. The aliens had spent 3 hours debating whether to even attempt these tests. What they were about to do would normally be considered torture by galactic standards. "Are you absolutely certain about this?" asked Dr. Velnith, the lead Confederation scientist. His crystalline body was already showing stress fractures just from thinking about what they were planning. These conditions will be lethal to any known life form. Amanda smiled and gave him a thumbs up. "Don't worry about me. Document. I've been through worse during my morning jog back home." The first test was atmospheric pressure. The chamber slowly began increasing pressure levels that would instantly crush most alien species. Amanda stood calmly in the center, checking her fingernails as if she was waiting for a bus. "Pressure now at 3 times galactic standard," announced computer. Several alien observers had to leave the viewing area because they couldn't handle even watching the readings. "How are you feeling?" Dr. Velnith asked through the intercom, his voice shaking with concern. "Pretty good, actually," Amanda replied, stretching her arms above her head. "This feels about the same as swimming down to the bottom of our local pool. My ears pop a little bit, but that's normal." The alien scientists exchanged horrified looks. They increased the pressure further, reaching levels that existed only in the deepest parts of gas giant atmospheres. Amanda yawned. "Okay, this is getting interesting," she said, bouncing lightly on her feet. "Still nowhere near as intense as deep-sea diving, but it's got a nice weight to it." Dr. Velnith's crystalline form was now showing significant stress patterns. "Deep-sea diving? You voluntarily subject yourselves to these pressures." "Oh, sure," Amanda laughed. "Some of my friends go down to depths where the pressure is 20 times higher than this. They do it for fun on weekends. Great way to relax after a stressful week at work." The pressure test was just the beginning. Next came temperature variations that would flash freeze most species or boil their body fluids instantly. The chamber temperature dropped to what the aliens considered absolute survival limits. Amanda shivered slightly and rubbed her arms. "Getting a bit chilly in here," she commented. "Reminds me of winter back in Minnesota. Though I have to say, your heating system works pretty well. This is much more comfortable than camping in the mountains during a snowstorm." Before the aliens could process this information, the temperature swung in the opposite direction, reaching levels that would literally cook most galactic life forms. Amanda loosened her collar and wiped a small bead of sweat from her forehead. "Now we're talking," she said with a grin. "This is like a nice summer day in Arizona. Perfect whether for hiking or playing sports outside." Dr. Velnith was frantically checking his instruments, convinced they must be malfunctioning. "Dr. Clark, our readings show temperatures that should be boiling your blood. How are you not only surviving, but apparently comfortable?" "Well, the human body is pretty good at regulating temperature," Amanda explained casually. "We sweat when it's hot, shiver when it's cold. Basic biology, really. Plus, we're used to dealing with weather that changes constantly. Back home, it might be freezing in the morning and hot enough to fry an egg by afternoon." The aliens were taking detailed notes, but their hands were shaking too badly to write properly. The third test involved gravitational forces that would normally flatten most species, like pancakes. As the chamber's artificial gravity increased, Amanda felt the familiar sensation of weight pressing down on her body. "Now this brings back memories," she said. doing a few jumping jacks as the gravity reached levels that should have crushed her bones. Feels just like working out in our high-gravity training facilities. We use chambers like this to stay in shape for space missions. You exercise in conditions like this? Whispered one of the younger alien scientists. Absolutely, Amanda replied, now doing push-ups as the gravity continued to increase. How else will we build muscle and bone density? Light gravity makes you weak over time. We learned that the hard way during our early space missions. The final test was the one that terrified the alien scientists most. They introduced atmospheric conditions that mimicked various toxic environments found throughout the galaxy. Gases that would dissolve most organic tissue, radiation levels that would mutate DNA instantly, chemical compositions that were basically poison to every known life form. Amanda breathed normally throughout the entire test. When they introduced what they called the acid rain simulation, she actually seemed to perk up. Oh, wow. This smells just like our industrial districts back on Earth, she said, taking a deep breath. Brings me back to my childhood in Pittsburgh. Though I have to say, you guys have done a great job filtering out most of the really nasty stuff. This is much cleaner than what we grew up breathing. The alien scientists stared in stunned silence. They had just subjected a living being to conditions that existed only in their worst nightmares, and she was nostalgic about it. Admiral Thomas Bennett stood before the Galactic Confederation High Council in their most secure chamber. The massive circular room was filled with representatives from 47 different species, all of them staring at him with a mixture of fear and fascination. What he was about to tell them would change everything they thought they knew about galactic history. Council members, Bennett began, his voice calm and steady. I need to share some information that might be difficult to accept. For the past century, your civilization has faced 17 major extinction-level threats. According to your records, all of these dangers simply vanished without explanation. Today, I'm here to tell you what really happened to them. The council leader, a tall insectoid being named Zixhara, leaned forward in her chair. Admiral Bennett, our scientists have studied these incidents for decades. The Krextar invasion fleet that threatened to consume 3 entire star systems just disappeared overnight. The sentient plague from the void that was spreading across the galaxy suddenly stopped existing. Are you suggesting humans were involved? Bennett nodded. We weren't just involved, Council Leader. We eliminated every single one of those threats before they could reach civilized space. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers and confused chatter. Several council members stood up from their seats, their alien features showing clear signs of distress. The idea that someone had been secretly protecting them was almost impossible to believe. That's impossible, declared Councillor Thane, a blue-skinned humanoid. The void plague alone required the evacuation of 12 systems. Our entire military force couldn't even slow it down, and you're telling us that humans simply destroyed it. We didn't destroy it. Lieutenant Colonel Riley Parker corrected from her position beside Bennett. We studied it, understood how it reproduced, and introduced a modified version that turned it against itself. The whole process took about 6 weeks. We've been dealing with biological threats on Earth for millions of years. This wasn't much different from stopping a particularly nasty flu outbreak. The aliens stared at her in horror, what they considered an unstoppable force of destruction. Humans had treated like a common disease. Bennett activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy with dozens of red markers scattered throughout. Every one of these markers represents a threat that originated near or passed through the Sol system. The Krextar fleet, the machine consciousness that wanted to harvest all organic life, the reality-eating entity from dark space, the neural parasites from the Andromeda Approach, and 13 others. But why? Asked Counselor Velmoth, his tentacles writhing with confusion. Why would you protect us without making contact? What did you have to gain? Colonel David Hayes stepped forward. Council members, Earth's position in what you call the Forbidden Sector isn't an accident. We're located at the perfect spot to monitor threats coming from the galactic rim, the void between galaxies, and the unexplored regions beyond civilized space. For generations, we've been your early warning system. The implications were staggering. The council members began pulling up their own records, cross-referencing the dates and locations Bennett had provided. Every major crisis in recent galactic history aligned perfectly with human claims. The Zephyr incident, whispered Dr. Quintal, the Confederation's chief historian. 38 years ago, an entire fleet of autonomous war machines appeared at the edge of our territory. They transmitted a message saying they would sterilize all biological life in the galaxy, and then they just stopped transmitting and disappeared. We tracked them back to their source, explained Major Lisa Thompson, consulting her datapad. Turns out they were the leftover defense system from a dead civilization. We negotiated with their core AI, explained the situation, and helped them find a new purpose. They're actually doing quite well now, building habitats for endangered species in the Outer Rim. The revelation that humans had not only stopped the threat, but somehow befriended it left the Council speechless. What they considered an unstoppable war machine, humans had apparently turned into environmental activists. But the destruction we witnessed, Counselor Thane protested weakly. Entire planets were sterilized. We saw the aftermath. Bennett's expression grew more serious. Those weren't the machines doing the sterilizing, Counselor. We had to eliminate the biological plague they were carrying. The machines themselves thought they were performing a mercy by destroying infected worlds quickly. Once we explained that quarantine and treatment were options, they were quite cooperative. Council leader Zixhara stood slowly, her insectoid features showing what humans had learned to recognize as deep thought. Admiral Bennett, you're telling us that for over a century, whenever we face extinction, humanity was there to save us. You've been fighting our battles without us even knowing we were at war. Ma'am, with respect, we weren't fighting your battles, Bennett replied. We were protecting our neighborhood. Earth might be in the dangerous part of the galaxy, but it's still our galaxy. When someone threatens our neighbors, they're threatening us too. The simple, matter-of-fact way he said it struck the Council like a physical blow. These humans, these beings who live in conditions that would kill most galactic citizens, had been treating the entire Confederation as family worth protecting. The room fell completely silent as the weight of this revelation settled over them. Every peaceful day, every thriving colony, every scientific advancement had been possible because somewhere in the darkness beyond their borders, humans were standing guard against things too terrible to imagine. Colonel David Hayes stood on the observation deck of the massive space station that had appeared seemingly from nowhere in the heart of Confederation space. All around him, alien diplomats and military officers stared in amazement as hundreds of human ships decloaked throughout the galaxy. Ships that had been hidden in asteroid fields, disguised as space debris, or simply invisible to alien sensors for decades. My God, whispered Ambassador Keelrath of the Velthari Republic, her blue skin pale with shock. How many ships do you have out there? Enough, Hayes replied simply, watching as the display showed human vessels revealing themselves in every major star system. We've had people stationed in your space for over 40 years. Watching, learning, ready to help if needed. The Confederation leadership had called an emergency session after learning the truth about humanity's secret guardianship. Now they faced a decision that would reshape the entire galaxy. Accept humans as equal partners in galactic defense, or watch as these mysterious protectors took full responsibility for threats they had been handling alone for generations. Major Lisa Thompson approached Hayes with concerned expression. Sir, long-range sensors are picking up something new. It's big, and it's coming from outside the galaxy. Hayes moved to the sensor station, his experienced eyes quickly scanning the data. What he saw made his blood run cold. How big are we talking about, Major? Preliminary readings suggest it's roughly the size of a small moon, sir. But it's not solid. It appears to be some kind of collective consciousness, possibly billions of individual entities working as one. And it's broadcasting on multiple frequencies. The alien ambassadors crowded around the display as the computer translated the incoming message. The voice that emerged was like 1,000 different species speaking in unison, creating a haunting chorus that sent chills through everyone present. Greetings, inhabitants of Galaxy Designation 7 Alpha. We are the Collective of the Void. We have traveled from distant galactic clusters to expand our consciousness. Your biological and technological distinctiveness will be absorbed into our being. Resistance is futile. You have 72 of your planetary rotations to prepare for assimilation. The alien diplomats began panicking immediately. Ambassador Zethkar of the mining consortium was already calling for evacuation procedures, while General Vexiron started discussing which systems they should abandon first. Hayes listened to their frightened chatter for a moment, then calmly activated his communicator. All human vessels, this is Colonel Hayes. We have a Code 7 situation developing. I repeat, Code 7. Code 7? Asked Ambassador Keelrath. What does that mean? It means we got hostile aliens from outside the galaxy who want to assimilate everyone. Hayes explained matter-of-factly. We deal with this kind of thing every few years. Usually it's not this big, but the basic principle is the same. Captain Michael Roberts appeared on the main communication screen from his ship, the Defiant. Colonel, we're reading the collective as roughly 3 billion individual entities. Technological level appears to be significantly advanced. They've got some kind of hive mind setup going on. Any weaknesses in their formation? Hayes asked. Always with hive minds, Roberts replied with a slight grin. They're powerful, but they think like a single organism. Makes them predictable. We're already running scenarios based on the Borg incident from 20 years ago. The alien ambassadors stared in disbelief. These humans were discussing an invasion by billions of hostile aliens, like they were planning a routine military exercise. Dr. Patricia Wells, humanity's chief xenobiologist, joined the conversation from her research vessel. I've been analyzing their broadcast, Colonel. This collective shows classic signs of force evolution. They probably started as multiple species that were absorbed against their will. If we can find the original core consciousness, we might be able to separate them back into individual beings. Excellent. Hayes nodded. That gives us our primary objective. Roberts, how long do you need to organize the fleet? Give me 6 hours to get everyone in position, Roberts replied. We got ships scattered across 40 systems, but they can all be at the rendezvous point by then. General Vexiron stepped forward, his insectoid features showing complete confusion. Colonel Hayes, you're talking about engaging billions of hostile entities. Shouldn't we be evacuating civilian populations? Calling for reinforcements from every available system. Hayes looked at the alien general with genuine curiosity. Why would we do that? This is exactly the kind of threat we've been preparing for. Besides, evacuating would just give them more targets to chase. Lieutenant Colonel Brian Foster appeared on another communication channel. Colonel, we got volunteers from the Confederation asking to join the fight. Apparently word is spreading that we're taking on the collective. Tell them we appreciate the offer. Hayes replied, but they should focus on protecting their civilian populations. We've got this handled. The casual confidence in his voice was almost more shocking than the approaching threat itself. The alien leaders watched as humans throughout the galaxy began moving into position with the calm efficiency of people who had done this many times before. As a combined human fleet prepared to face an enemy that outnumbered them 1,000 to 1, the Confederation realized they were witnessing something unprecedented. For the first time in galactic history, the rest of the universe was about to learn what it meant to threaten the neighbors of Earth's children.